What are the common barriers that you come across, you think, whether they're cultural or financial or otherwise, that prevent inclusive football from really scaling globally?
The structure for sure is a massive barrier. Without embedding inclusive football into the day to day, it remains exclusive. So if you have your football program and it is what it is, like it's the disability one, and you run it on a Saturday morning, and it's kept away from everyone else, that's still an exclusive program. It's not embedded into your community. It's not embedded into your club.
Putting together specific programs for people with challenges or disabilities. How do you go about, delivering that across all the different ecosystems and different leagues and countries?
I listen to the people that are the experts in the field, who are the program staff that we have that are in the country, the coaches that are there, and most importantly, like the athletes that we have, the Special Olympics footballers. We have a saying around like research fields and the work that we're doing, but like nothing about me without me. So what we have to
Ah.
do is we work with the athletes because they're the ones that we're trying to benefit.
Welcome to Football Business Television, where the game gets down to business. I'm delighted for the latest edition of Level Playing Field to be joined by Jeff Lahart, who is the football development lead at the Special Olympics. Jeff, how are you?
Good, Mac. Thanks a million for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
No, not at all. Always good to catch up with you, and known each other for a while now. So, as talking about off camera, we'll try and keep this to our show length limit, but there's no guarantees, and the production team might get on our case a little bit. Um, but we'll dive straight in, I guess, because there's quite a lot to cover. You know, football's the world's game, as we know, or it claims to be the world's game, should we say? But for many people with disabilities, access hasn't always been equal. Your work's really about changing that, right? Which has been brilliant to watch over the last few years. What first drew you to football development within the Special Olympics, and when did inclusion become kind of your personal mission rather than just a professional role?
Yeah, I mean, football for me, it's my passion. Like, always has been, always will be, from the minute I first kicked the ball and joined the team to, you know, to this moment now. But I think I was lucky to be empowered by the leadership around me in Special Olympics to get into the football development side of things. So, from my context, I work in coach development in Special Olympics, and then from that, obviously with my background, like I have UEFA license, I'm football coach, I'm involved in committees and boards of clubs here in Ireland. But they obviously saw the background that I had, and I think together then we identified the gap that was we didn't really have the dedicated capacity to football development in Special Olympics, and everyone knows the impact that football has globally. Like, it doesn't matter what country you're in, people are playing football. In Special Olympics, like on paper, in terms of our census numbers, we've over 180 countries registered as playing football. So we know the breadth of it, we know the depth of it, and we needed a bit of capacity to go into it. And obviously, for me, with it being my passion, we let that be a bit of a passion project and worked away on it on the side, and then it's gradually grown and grown, as you know, and you've been a part of that growth as well that we've had over the last few years. The trajectory of it has just been up and up and up, and I think we're probably in the best position I've seen in my 6 years in the organization in terms of our global footprint and our our positioning in world football. And that's down to that. It's not down to the work I do. I'm very much just a middleman piecing things together. But as you see that momentum, it really gives you the motivation to keep doing what you're doing and make the connections. And it's the work that's going on the ground by the programs, the coaches, the volunteers, and then obviously our special mixed footballers as well are the ones that are the reason that we're doing all this. So when it comes to when did it become a mission, I suppose it's always had that passion for inclusion when it comes to sport. Like, I've worked in elite football, if you want to call it that, and like academy sides. I've worked at international level, but
Yeah,
the most that I've got from football is the academy stuff. In terms of, I'm not talking like professional academies, I'm talking 4, 5, 6 year olds that are playing football for the first time and seeing the joy that
yeah.
comes from there. But I think when obviously I have like experience volunteering with disability organizations, but also family friends, and one of my best friends has a family member with disabilities. So seeing that people didn't have the same access to football or sport that I had, for me was a big cause for that. So when I went back into coaching at a grassroots like community level, and I saw that we had, kids showing up that the coaches weren't equipped to like deal with, I suppose, if you want to put it, for want of a better term, didn't really have the capacity or the knowledge to facilitate their needs. That for me was a big driving factor and why I wanted to be a bit more involved in the football development side of things.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You've definitely downplayed the work that you do there because I've seen it firsthand. But you're certainly surrounded by a brilliant bunch of people who have got a wonderful common goal. And as you said, you've worked across mainstream football and kind of the elite levels from an academy side of things. You're probably qualified to be Man United's next manager, mate. If you fancy throwing your hat in the ring there, um,
How
might
about
be a bit
that?
of might be a bit of a poison chalice for you at the minute. Maybe more stressful. Um, what experiences? Were there any particular experiences that shaped the way that you view football's responsibility to the disabled community?
Yeah, and I think like just to add on to what I mentioned there, like I think it was when I was coaching myself, um, I noticed that like I'd be there, and particularly when I was younger, and I don't think I realized it until I reflected on it a few years later. But um, you know, kids showing up, they might have sensory needs, they might have physical limitations, intellectual disabilities, whatever it is. But at 4, 5, 6, there everyone's coming to a football pitch to do the same thing. That's play football and get the joy out of the game.
Yeah,
And I noticed I wasn't equipped to do that. But when I looked at the senior coaches that I was learning from, they weren't equipped either. So for me to recognize that, I obviously tried to upskill myself a little bit more. I went coaching in the US for a while then as well, and it was the same situation. So I was noticing, wow, this is the same, you know, 4,000 miles away from Ireland, and they're two countries that you would expect to be pretty well developed in that space. Um, so I think like for me that was a big piece for doing that. And obviously then the more I've been in the business side of football, particularly the last couple of years, I've noticed you know financially there's so much money in football, but we're not seeing the same return, not just in the disability side of things, but just in grassroots football in general. The investment is going in at one level really, and the challenges are there. I mean, you know, globally we're down in terms of volunteer numbers when it comes to coaches, volunteers around clubs, people on boards and committees of clubs that are doing the day to day run. And that's a reflection of just society, what it is now. But um, there hasn't been that bridge of a gap in terms of the investment in it. And I think I've seen things come on leaps and bounds in the last few years in terms of the accessibility for people with disabilities, but it it's still nowhere near where it should be. And I think that's a continued driver for me in terms of my passion to continue to create those opportunities and make football as accessible as it possibly can be.
yeah, I think you're right. I've seen lots of people, even the ones that really do mean to do the right things and they're responsible for running clubs or they own clubs and they're trying to do as much as they can and then the financial constraints, the money's just not going far enough, right? And so there's certainly some work to be done there, to make sure that there is that level playing field, as we call it, right? Because otherwise you're just kind of being given what's left over,
Yeah.
and that's probably never going to be enough, right? How do you personally define kind of true inclusion in football, right? Because everybody talks about it. Everybody talks about it's everybody's game. It's diversity, inclusion are two buzzwords we've seen, bounded around for a long time now. Beyond participation numbers and kind of headline initiatives, how do you feel about that?
I think there's probably like three areas for me when it comes to that. I think accessibility is number one, and that's accessibility in terms of not just like facilities that a club offers or a team for people with intellectual disabilities or a football for all team or whatever it might be. But like you look around a football club and you see, do they have like communication boards? Are the coaches equipped to communicate with athletes that might be nonverbal? They might have physical limitations. Are they equipped to work with that? You look at, like, are there wheelchair ramps? Are there ramps for frames? Are there pitches that are equipped to deal with that? So, like, there's that broad accessibility element of it. You look at, you know, equality in terms of equality of resources. So, like, are we
Mm,
dedicating the same time, the same equipment, the same funding to people with disabilities as we are to the mainstream teams? And again, one for a better term of mainstream, but um, it's looking at that as well. Like, we've seen the growth in women's football being significant because it's come with a dedication of commitment, resources, and, like, generally just the time that's gone into it has increased significantly. And I think that's something that we're seeing with disability football as well. And I think it'll go on the same trajectory as we've seen with women's football, because people are more committed to it, but it does just take that little bit of time. And then I think, like, the non-tokenistic side of things is another piece for true inclusion. So it's not doing it because we have to do it,
yeah.
or putting on like one session for people with disabilities and calling it a day and saying, oh, like, we did that, we're an inclusive club.
We did. Yeah. Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. So it's really trying to do that. Like, the inclusive element shouldn't be the last thing on the list. There really should be that element of, you're thinking about it the same as you would any other element of the work that you're doing, whether
Yeah.
it's, putting on sessions with, Astro time. When you have, everyone knows the struggles of that. When you've 20 teams, you've one Astro, you have to squeeze everyone in on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Yeah.
But it's just making sure that it's in consideration before it even goes to, like, oh, we forgot about that, let's add it in at the end.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that the women's game is experiencing an incredible time right now, right? And a lot of that is based on the investment that's now coming into the game. I think people are realizing there is a commercial opportunity there. So hopefully it certainly you guys experience the same kind of growth over the next few years would be brilliant to see. What values guide your leadership, I guess, when you're defining programs for athletes globally? Because I guess not only putting together specific programs for people with challenges or disabilities, but you're doing that around the world, right? So you have to consider cultural differences as well as physical or mental attributes of a particular athlete. How do you go about delivering that across all the different ecosystems and different leagues and countries?
I think I'm the lucky one in terms of, I just get to listen to people. Like, my whole role, my value is in this element is empowerment. So what I do is
Yeah.
I listen to the people that are the experts in the field, which is, or, who are the program staff that we have that are in the country, the coaches that are there, and most importantly, like, the athletes that we have, the especially with footballers. We have a saying, and I'm hearing it more and more around, like, research fields and the work that we're doing, but, like, nothing about me without me. So what we have to
Ah,
do is we work with the athletes because they're the ones that we're trying to benefit, and we get what they want, we get their understanding, we get their ideas, their concepts, and, our job is being there to support. Um, like, one thing that we always say from our perspective is that we're a knowledge broker. What in the work that we do, so we're there to share best practices, we're there to make connections, we're there to, assist where we can when it comes to funding or strategic guidance or whatever that might be. But in terms of the day to day, on the ground, on the pitch work, we have to empower the people that know it best, know their context best, know the countries, know the setup of whether it's schools, clubs. There's still some countries that have institutions for people with intellectual disabilities, so it's the connections there, working with local governments or whoever it might be. So for me, empowerment is my number one value when it comes to that, and that's notwithstanding, like, having inclusion, empathy, communication, and then that bit of creativity as well to try and make things work for each individual. Like, it's, as you said, we're across all different countries, all different contexts. It's different from Ireland to Tanzania to Papua New Guinea. Like, everything is going to be completely different in terms of, facilities that they have, the weather that they might have, what the link is, what their access are to people with intellectual disability. So what we do is we try and be a little bit creative with the work that we do. We know that if we have funding there that has to go for a specific project, we know it's not going to look the same in two countries. So we're we're creative, and we're uh, you know, again, we work with the programs to make sure that it works for them. That it's not us telling them what we want; it's them telling us what they need, and then
Yeah,
we'll work off that as well.
yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to be around people in different countries that work with you guys at the Special Olympics, and from athletes to coaches and mentors and yourself. And they've been awesome, everywhere. I think when we did the activation at the Cruyff Arena last year, I mean, I've been in football for 40 years. That's easily, and I've been really lucky as a fan. I've seen my team win everything. I've been in some incredible arenas and venues. That's a standout moment for me. That's up there with watching my kids play football for the first time in terms of the impact of football, which I believe can do things that other things just can't do. And I think that was one evening that was proved. And I think I spoke to you that night. I just said this is one of the best, if not the best, football experience I'd ever had. So to see that in Amsterdam, and then to meet your athletes in Miami as well. And I remember that youngster with the best handshake I've ever felt as well. And I'm not sure I've recovered from that, but it was brilliant to see. What's the biggest misconception? Because there's probably a few, right? In terms of the work that you do, and certainly from an organisational perspective. But what's the biggest misconception that you think you come across that organisations have about disability inclusion?
I think for me anyway, again, talking from my perspective, is that there's the a one size fits all when it comes to disability football, if like for that term. Um that disability covers all forms and all types of disabilities, and we see federations dedicate, one staff member to disability football, and that's it. But you're telling me that blind football is the same as amputee, is the same as intellectual disability, is the same as CP? It's I think that's the biggest one. And again, it goes back to that kind of tokenistic side of things. Like, yeah, we should be doing this, so we're seen to be doing it. Um, but I like there's different expertise that needs to be done in each of the areas. And I again, I've seen the growth and the trajectory of disability football, and that's using the broad term. That's across all codes, growing and growing, and the competition opportunities that are there, the resources that are there, continuing to improve and get better. But it's not the same everywhere. And I think
Mm.
we're slowly getting there. We're making changes. There's certainly some member associations, particularly in UEFA, that are making strides, and they're the gold standard that we're seeing. We want people to continue to follow that. We're currently doing some research from a UEFA funded grant around disability football across all 55 UEFA member associations to see what that looks like, what resources are dedicated to it, what offerings they have, and what their plans are basically going forward. So our plan is to finish up that research by May of this year, and then ideally we'll expand that. We'll go across the other FIFA confederations and do it in different parts of the world, and get a good round view of what disability football looks like across the world, really. And then we can obviously give our input, but we'll connect with the other disability federations as well, and try and come together and assist with that. I think just one other misconception as well is like one-off events or short-term initiatives are mean that you're now inclusive. So
Yeah,
by doing a once-off, like oh, what do they call them? Like this fun day or whatever it is.
activation. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just you get a couple of pros in and take a few photos and dribble around some
yeah.
comments, and that's it. Like that. That
Look how
means
much we care.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly. I think that's a big misconception again, and it's not knocking the organizations that do it, because it is important work, and it creates um opportunity. It showcases the work that's done. It creates publicity around it. But I think it's a snapshot. It's one piece. But what we're really looking for is that longevity element of things that continues to offer these opportunities on a weekly, daily, platform for people with disabilities to get involved in sport. Because again, like I can walk down the road here and play for 4 or 5 different football teams, but if I have an intellectual disability, there's one team and it's 25-minute drive away.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
like I'm in Dublin, I'm in the capital city of my country, and that's the reality of where we're at now. So it's about growing that, being able to provide opportunities. Like, I know we've spoken about this before, but you look at like 3% of the world are said to have an intellectual disability. It's 250 million people. Like, to say that there aren't enough people with disabilities to create teams and stuff like that, I don't think that's really the case. So, I think they're for me are the two kind of key misconceptions that we tend to have.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense, and I can see how that would be the case as well. From your day to day work, what are the most common barriers that you come across? You think, whether they're cultural or financial, and or otherwise, that prevent inclusive football from really scaling globally?
Yeah, and look, the easy answer is the financial side of it, and that's
Yeah,
but it's easy, but it's the reality of it. But I think it's from the longevity point of view. Like, it doesn't mean that more money results in more success or higher quality, but what we need is the sustainability side of it. So money comes with, or sustainability comes with money, and that's the side of it. You need money to continue to rent pitches, buy equipment, in cases pay coaches or
yeah,
whatever it might be, travel to competitions. um we look around the world, like, the again, it's different in Ireland to what it would be in Africa. So, there's transport needs that are significantly more important in Africa than they will be in Ireland, where they mightn't have a public transport system, or it's more expensive to do it, or they're traveling 2-3 hours to get to their local Special Olympics club. Like, there's elements like that that come with it that we mightn't take into account here. A lot of times the clubs will, provide meals and food and water that comes with it, but it's, that for me is one. The financial side of it is obviously going to be a key part of it, just to ensure that it is sustainable long term. The structure for sure is a massive barrier. Without embedding inclusive football into the day to day, it remains exclusive. So if you have your football program and it is what it is, like, it's the disability one, and you run it on a Saturday morning, and it's kept away from everyone else, that's still an exclusive program. It's not embedded into your community. It's not embedded into your club, where people are becoming more familiar with the idea of communicating with people with disabilities, or having the chat talking about Amarim getting sacked. So, whatever it is, like, it just becomes the norm when it's embedded into it. So I think, like, structurally, that's a huge barrier for us. But I don't think, again, that's not a criticism or a knock on clubs or organizations. I just don't think they understand how to do it yet, and that's
mhm,
what we're here to assist with, right? Like, that's our whole, like, modus operandi, is to come in and assist organizations, federations, clubs to embed inclusive football into inclusive sport in general. It doesn't have to be just football, but into their organization, and be able to make that a really truly inclusive organization.
yeah, yeah. Again, makes absolute sense. Talking day to day. Give us a glimpse into your day to day life, and we touched on it off camera. You're one of the only people I know that travels more than I do, and you visit so many countries. Was it 5, 6 countries at the back end of last year in a matter of a few weeks? But if there is a kind of day to day description, because I dare say it's pretty varied, what does your day to day role look like?
Yeah, great question, because I don't think I even have an answer for that at this stage. But it's yeah, look, like I said, I'm coach development and football development now, so it's between the two. It does vary, but um being in Ireland, the majority of my colleagues would be US based, so I tend to have nice quieter mornings when I'm in the office. So that might be working with some of our other regions. We tend to work with the 7 regions that we have, so we'll work with the sports staff there. So that could be meeting with, like, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, East Asia, Asia Pacific, because the mornings tend to be nice and quiet for us to be able to meet with them. The afternoons, then we jump into calls, so that's our team calls, whether it's on projects, whether it's partnership calls. If we have events coming up, we tend to have calls about those. So, it is very teams based, heavy on that side of things. But um, I think the beauty of it, like that could be a Tuesday and then a Wednesday, like you well know, you're standing on the pitch in the Johan Cruyff Arena and
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
how did I get here? So it's well, my favorite story I always tell everyone is that like couple of days that we had um around the Amsterdam trip. I flew into Amsterdam that morning. I ran a webinar from my hotel room that was, it was pushed out to 500-600 people. Finished that up, jumped in a taxi, got to the Johan Cruyff Arena in a what was like a breathtaking experience. Honestly, like seeing Special Olympics athletes who support Ajax
yeah.
playing a match on the pitch, scoring goals, and the goal that they've always dreamed of, being able to sit in the changing room and see their heroes' shirts there, like that. That for me was just phenomenal. Um, Bounce back to the hotel, fly out to London the next day, and then I'm getting a tour of Wembley the next day. Like it's, you know, it's crazy the way that it all works. But they're obviously small examples of what it is. But yeah, it bounces between the two. We've a lot going on in coach education. We have a small team that works globally on that. We have a lot going on in the football side of things as well. So definitely kept busy, which is not anything I'm going to complain about. I love it.
Yeah, holiday due soon, maybe.
Yeah,
You might have already answered this just then, actually, but behind every policy or program or whatever, there is a real human story, right? And that's the the best thing about what you guys do, because as much as you live for the programs and the global stuff, you can really see that you're doing it for the human reasons, right? You're not doing it to tick boxes or anything like that. Maybe aside from the Cruyff Arena, because you've already shared that experience, which was incredible. Is there a moment with an athlete or a coach or some work that you've done or just a setting where you stood there and thought, this is why I do this?
yeah, and I'll actually give you two. I'll be quick, don't worry. But the one being, I was in Singapore over the summer, and we went out to watch one of the local teams train. So they were maybe 10. This was the youth team, so under 18, say maybe 10 kids training away, different ages, different sizes, different abilities. One of the guys there he wasn't great with interacting with the group, so the coaches worked with him separately, which was absolutely perfect. And just chatting to the coach afterwards, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, that's his thing. He loves to come. He loves being involved, but he doesn't like being in the big group. It's just a bit overwhelming for him. But he's non-verbal. Didn't really do any exercise up until he joined this, maybe 6 or 8 weeks before. And the coach said, he shows up every week. He obviously loves it, but we've no way of communicating with him verbally to say that that's the case. But as we're taking a group photo at the end, and the coach says, "Okay, everyone say football." Everyone says football, and then the loudest of them all is this kid that's non-verbal.
That's
The
the
coach
best.
never heard him speak, never heard him
Really?
say, and to say like there wasn't a dry eye in the place was just,
Yeah,
it's
I
one of
bet.
those things incredible. And that, I was chatting with the coach after, and he was barely holding together, and he's like, that for me just shows like the power of being here, the power of
Yeah,
showing up every week, encouraging them to get involved, accommodating his needs, because it wasn't a case of, we've seen it before, someone comes up and they don't fit the mold of what you have set up for your session, so they tend to be left out. But
mm,
accommodating his needs and that has led to his progression, which I just thought was phenomenal. And then the second one would be a project that we did in Kenya. So we invested in a women's unified football league, and the county government got involved. So Makueni County, it's about 3 hours outside of Nairobi. They came on board, supported us with the initiative, and basically what they were doing was they were investing in nurses and medical staff to go out into the local community. So this is like rural Kenya. You're, tiny little towns and villages of 5 or 10 houses. That's it. And they were going out into these little rural towns and basically finding the lost people with intellectual disabilities. If you like, the ones that haven't been sent to school, they're not allowed out of the houses, so finding that, and the support that they then gave in terms of like the medical diagnoses, the support they gave to the families who, had no experience, no education, no knowledge of how to accommodate their kids, um, integrating them into education, giving them the medical care that they need. It was just, for me, that was phenomenal to see that.
Yeah,
Okay, the work we're doing, yes, we're setting up female football leagues, but look at the impact that it's having on local communities, families, the
huge.
health, the education, massive. Yeah. So for me, there were two big pieces that came from it, and I have plenty more, but I know we don't
Yeah,
have the time.
no. The football word from a non-verbal child must have been incredible. I think it touches on what we said earlier, where I genuinely, in my heart, believe that football can make a change and make differences where other things just can't reach, and that's obviously probably the pinnacle example of that being the case, right? Absolutely incredible. How have the United football programs changed perceptions, do you think? Not maybe just for athletes with disabilities, but non-disabled players, coaches, communities, and again, you've touched on a couple of things there, and you've probably got lots more examples. But how do you, where do you see the real perceptional change made there?
Yeah, I mean, so for anyone that doesn't know, our unified programs are, people with and without intellectual disabilities train and compete together on the same team. So if you have a football team, if it's a five-a-side, you'll have three players with intellectual disabilities and two without. And so with that, the huge drive we've seen in it is in schools, um, and like it's there for a reason, which is to break down barriers. It
Yeah,
gets rid of the fear that people have of communicating, saying the wrong thing. It really does create those like friendships that people have. So when you're in the community and you're down the shop and your son or daughter starts talking to their friend from school who happens to have an intellectual disability, but it's like, oh no, we play football together. And it's like, oh yeah, yeah. And then, that they become friends, and then the parents become friends. So it is just like the same as you would have in an everyday community, but that's really what it does. Like it does break down those barriers. We see elements of people reintegrating into sport because of unified sports. So they might have dropped out at 7, 8, 9, 10 because the local offerings of the clubs didn't have the accommodations to meet their needs, or they just fell out of love with sport. But then this came up as an opportunity, and they've reintegrated into it. So you're not only getting the social element of it, the soft skills like communication, um, empathy being a massive one as well that comes from it. But also you're getting, your fitness is improving, your health is improving because you're
yeah,
active. Like for me, they're the key pieces that come from it. Is that yes, you're participating in sport, and that's great, and it's unified sport, and it's fantastic that way. But you're benefiting not only yourself but also everything else that comes from it. And when it comes to coaches, like I don't know a coach that wouldn't say that coaching unified sports, especially big sports, hasn't made them a better coach compared to when they just coach mainstream. Because not only are you learning to accommodate a wider variety of needs in your group, but like that your communication skills improve because you have to explain things better. You have to be more articulate with what you do. You have to be more specific with what you do. Your demonstrations are going to improve. You're being able to observe and see what work needs to be done. Simple things like pairings or using certain color cones for things like that, and
yeah,
understanding
yeah,
people's triggers and needs and wants. And I think personally as a coach, I've improved from you know being in this space, but every other coach that I speak to, whether it's at games or local competitions, whatever it might be, they're all the same. They say the same thing, that it's broadened their horizons a little bit. It's added to their toolkit, if you want to put it that way. And it's the same with communities. You see the communities just having huge benefits from having the unified perspective. And again, it goes down to just like breaking down those barriers, and it just makes it mainstream. It makes
yeah,
it everything is the same, and that's the way that it should be. And we're starting to see that. It's not saying that it's like that everywhere, but it certainly isn't. That same thing with like the language that's used around people with disabilities. People are often a little bit like hesitant to say it because they don't know if they're saying the right term, and
yeah,
things
of
change
course.
so quickly in terms of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and everything like that. So, um, just being in that space and having those unified programs really does assist with all that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've seen my youngest daughter's 5 and she plays little kickers football. There were a couple of children there, one non-verbal autistic child who would really struggle in big groups, and we noticed particularly when, you know, at the end they all play a game and they all wear different coloured bibs. She just didn't want to take part in that part of it. So she'd be involved in the whole thing, and then the fun part, or what everyone perceives as the fun part, was her most challenging part of the day, right? And I'm talking to the coach, and it turned out that she just had, you know, a particular thing about the colours that were being used, which made her anxious, and then it kicked into the other anxieties that attack her. And then he was like, "Do you want to wear a yellow one rather than a red or blue?" And she went, "Yeah." And she's not missed one since. And I was like, it was, you know, something as simple as talking to her and talking to her. I think talking to her sister, offering her the yellow ones, and she took the yellow one and joined in. And then now some of the other kids have like, can I be on her team and wear the yellow one? And now she's completely included in everything, as opposed to, like you said, it gets exclusive because she doesn't want to wear a red or a yellow bib, and sorry, red or blue bib. She wants to be individual, which is absolutely fine. And now they've dealt with it, and she's a part of the core group again, which is great to see. You guys you touched on your work with UEFA, and you know, I've been around conversations you've had with other, you know, governing bodies and leagues, and I think certainly paying more attention and investing more in inclusion as they should, and away from, you know, buzzwords and headlines that they're trying to make for PR reasons. What role should the governing bodies play though? And you know, clubs, and let's call it elite football, because elite would be the standard or the financial side of things, but that's the kind of elite level, to ensure that, you know, disability inclusion isn't treated as a side project.
Yeah, and again, to complement those that are doing it, like you know yourself, we've been working with different confederations, different clubs, different leagues who really are investing in it. In terms of what they should do, I think from our perspective, and to go in kind of selfishly from the Special Olympics side of things, is
Yeah,
to just get involved and support your local Special Olympics program, whether that's providing expertise. Like they are the experts in football, so why not get some Special Olympics coaches onto coaching courses, bring them into workshops, educate them on the football side of things, but be open to learning from them as well. So have the Special Olympics program come in, present to the coaches about inclusive coaching, how they, like we just spoke about there, in terms of like how to be adaptable as a coach, to
yeah,
change the color of the bibs or the cones that you're using, or use a different type of ball or whatever it might be. But like foundational inclusive principles, I think, is a big thing. Um, and like, again, coming from the coach education side of things, it's coaching is coaching. Good coaching is good coaching, no matter what the
yeah,
content. So we're not saying that we're the experts in it, but what we do have is nearly 60 years of experience in coaching people with intellectual disabilities. So we're happy to share that with the organizations, and no matter what it is. So I think that sort of collaboration would be fantastic, and that creates your sustainability and your longevity that I spoke about earlier, because now you have not just two Special Olympics coaches that were on your, you B license, C license, whatever it is, going back and coaching it. You now have 22 coaches that are equipped with the skills to coach people with disabilities going into their communities. And whether they're coaching in a grassroots club and someone shows up and they have CP or they have Down syndrome or whatever it might be, that coach has the tools in their toolbox to be able to coach that child the same as they would anyone else. So for us, that's a huge but also tangible element that clubs and governing bodies, elite football can do as well. Um, I mean, it sounds basic, but like the promotional side of it, by clubs being involved and partnering with us, whether it's at an international level or regional level or at a local level, it promotes who we are, but it showcases to people that there's opportunities there that they mightn't have known about. So it's the whole awareness side of things, that you might have someone that's in a community or new to a community that doesn't know that there's a a Special Olympics football team in their local area that can do it, and maybe they're partnered with a Barcelona or a Manchester United or a
yeah,
Liverpool, whatever it is, and they'll get the opportunity. But it's a small factor of what we do, but obviously like our World Games or our Unified Football World Cup that's coming up in July of this year, it's the opportunity to represent your country. Now,
Yeah,
how many people can say that they've played for their country? Um, like it's something I've always wanted to do. Always a dream. I'm sure it's the same for yourself when you're playing. You think
yeah,
about being, for me, it was the next Richard Dunn or whoever it is. But
yeah,
you know, that opportunity comes with it, but also just representing your local area, representing your club. When I was setting up a disability piece in the club that I was in, we did it with a local school that was for people with disabilities, and we said, um, if you become a member of the club, you get everything and every entitlement that you get that every other member has. You're not
yeah.
just part of the football for all team. You're part of the club.
The team,
So
yeah, yeah,
exactly, and it goes back to that piece I said earlier. I think just about the equality element of it. So if you're going to offer something, make sure that you're offering the same for everyone, and when it comes to that. But yeah, like again, the workshops and the days are nice, but it's the sustainability piece. So like, can we do those more regularly? Can we use them to upskill coaches? Can we use them to as like a come and try day for new people in the communities that can come? But the more you do them and the more regular that they are and the more regular that the engagements are, I think you're going to see much more progress. And then that it builds relationships as well, right? Like between the clubs and the specifics programs or the athletes or whoever it might be. And that can only lead to better things as well. So I think it, it's different depending on what tier you're looking at, whether it's clubs or leagues or governing bodies. But I think they're just a couple of small tangible pieces that could be done that ensures that it's ingrained and it's built into the system, as opposed to being that exclusive element on the side that people think, oh yeah, that's just the disability football thing or
yeah,
tick in the box.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Aren't we good people?
Yeah.
Looking ahead, and you probably just answered this one actually, but what does a level playing field in global football look like for the disabled community?
Yeah, I probably did answer. I probably jumped the gun on that one, but it's
You, you might have read these questions before.
yeah. I think it goes back to like what I said at the start in terms of I was able to rock up to a club and play for a team like that. Like walked in the door, went started kicking a ball, and I was on the team, and that was fine. Um, I think it's that element. It's showing up to a club and having the opportunity, having the accessibility, coaches being equipped to work with players of all ability levels, no matter what that is, having the resources there. Like I said, whether it's communication boards for people that are nonverbal, um, whether it's ramps, it's astro pitches that can accommodate wheelchairs or frames or whatever it might be. Um, I think for me, that's one. It's understanding that the people in the community have the opportunity to play, and for me, accessibility is always going to be the biggest thing. So when it comes to a level playing field, it's that you know the opportunity comes for whoever wants it. And I think that's the key part of it. Without opportunity, then it's never going to happen. So um I would be I would be shocked if we don't see that in the next few years. I think we are seeing that already. More and more clubs are
Yeah,
accommodating that and really are putting the effort in to do it. But it is just that case of continuing to grow and continuing to stay on the momentum that we have to continue to progress it.
yeah, completely agree. And I'm seeing we did an interview actually recently with the CEO of Redditch, the non-league club, and he was talking about being the first club in their region to have a sensory focused football team for kids.
Yeah.
Um, and invested his own money in doing that, which I applauded him. But that actually attracted additional sponsors for the club because you've got
Right.
sponsors that will be, heightened to the fact that you're doing the right thing in the local community and they want to support that. So he did it for the right reasons and risked his own money because he thought, I'm never going to see this money again. And actually, in turn, it attracted some additional commercial sponsors for the club, which it should feed itself like that, really, eventually, if people are all doing the right thing. Just one more to wrap up. I know you need to enjoy the rest of the afternoon. I think it's your last day off today, so we'll let you get back to to chilling out and maybe looking forward to the football later on. If someone's watching this that hasn't yet engaged with disability inclusion, what would you say to them, and where could they start?
I think the first bit is don't be afraid. If you know that's something that we get. We've done a lot of research, done a lot of surveying of people um through work, and people just don't really know how to start. Like going back again to what I said earlier, like they don't know if they're using the appropriate terms or the wording, the language that they're using. So I'd say just get involved, like learn, make mistakes as everyone does. Like
Yeah,
as a coach, I've learned the most from the mistakes that I've made over the years in terms of like putting on sessions, just trying things, going with it. If you know, don't feel the necessity to have to get involved because of it's a family member or I have to do this. You know, if I don't have a direct family member that has a disability or anything like that, but for me, like my passion is disability football because I've seen the value that it brings. So
yeah,
I'd say get out, see it in action. In Ireland, they do a Down syndrome futsal league, and they bring all the teams together twice a year to play competitions, and the crack that has had is unbelievable. But it's the most competitive games I've ever seen. Like they are going for it, and the standard is really good. The quality is excellent, and that's down to dedicated coaches, dedicated family members, dedicated players that are going to it. So don't disregard it as being disability football. Take it as football. Take it at that level, and really approach it with just an interest and an intrigue. But when it comes to like clubs, leagues, organizations, whatever that might be, I think it's just get involved, start it, and develop it from there.
yeah,
If you can always say we're gonna do it, and it never happens. But if you start something, whether it's something as simple as an open day, putting out an expression of interest to see who in the community is interested in this, what can we do, um, communicate with local disability organizations, local Special Olympics clubs, see what other clubs are doing. Like,
yeah,
yeah, every now and then I'll just go around different clubs and see what's going on, what they're doing in that space, and the inventiveness is incredible. What
yeah,
people are doing is just phenomenal. With limited resources, limited space, it's amazing. People are so inventive when it comes to this. So, it doesn't have to look like what we see as grassroots football. I think that's a big thing that we've done recently is trying to change what like youth football looks like,
hmm
because youth football shouldn't look like adults football
no,
because
of
it's
course,
different, right? So for us, it's accommodating again to the wants, to the needs, and the desires of the people that are playing the game. So figure out what they want. Maybe like you were talking about there with your daughter's group, maybe the games at the end aren't what they really want.
yeah,
Like, do they want to continue to play like the fun drills and the activities that are going on
yeah, yeah,
because snatch the bacon, or they're playing,
yeah, hiding from
pirates?
the techniques and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. Like, and UEFA have done an amazing job, and the FA have done an amazing job of like the playmakers work.
yeah,
It's all through storytelling, and that was obviously to bring in like young girls and keep them involved in football from a
yeah,
young
yeah,
age. But then they noticed, like young boys want to do this as well. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like so it's a different approach, but they're still learning the fundamentals of that come with it. But it's a completely different format to
mm,
what we see in the 11v11 game. So I think, yeah, like being inventive with it, just get involved, ask questions, start something if you haven't already, and it's it's probably the best space you can be in as well in terms of like what you get out of it personally, but also what you're giving to your community as well, because you're going to see more and more community engagement. And like you said, the guys in Redditch there, they invested in it, and what's come from that investment is more investment from external sources. So you're going to get more community engagement by
yeah,
doing this work, and that's just that shouldn't I don't think personally that should be your goal of it. Your goal should be to obviously provide the opportunities for people, but it certainly is a benefit that comes with it as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And as you touched on earlier on, the numbers don't lie, right? So if you start something, the chances are it's going to be successful, just based on numbers and giving people the chance to be involved in something, right? And I think it's given me some food for thought, that's for sure. Um, we've taken up enough of your time today. I know you've got way more important work to do, or not today, maybe. Um, really appreciate you taking the time, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure, and love hearing about what you guys do consistently, and sharing the work that you do to make football inclusive for everyone, which is a real life mission for you guys. And really appreciate you sharing the stories and some of the highlights of what you do. This has been Level Playing Field for Football Business TV. And Jeff, I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Mac. Really appreciate it.